Saw dudes. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is a highly anticipated return of From Software to their mecha action roots. I was very excited to get my hands on the Armored Core series and get a review out as soon as possible. In this video, we will explore the various aspects of the game, including graphics, story, gameplay, and music, to determine if Armored Core 6 lives up to the expectations of fans and newcomers alike. I think it's important to mention that this is my first From Software game and Armored Core game, so my review won't compare this game to any of its predecessors. I bought it because I like giant robots and customizing my playable characters, so I really didn't know what I was getting into. Reviews are subjective, but I did my best to be open-minded and honest. With that being said, let's get into it. Let me first cover the elephant in the room, the difficulty of AC6. The game structure is not well done in the sense that it doesn't teach you the game mechanics effectively. The first boss feels out of place amongst many fodder units that you face leading up to him. The thing is, this boss takes a massive leap in difficulty compared to the prior levels. You essentially have what my friend Ethan refers to as a great filter. Some players may rage quit at this point, whereas others like me beat him through sheer determination. It doesn't feel as rewarding. Some may say your build isn't right or you need to use different weapons, but to that I say, sure, but it would have been nice to have been taught game mechanics that help during combat instead of fighting fodder units that don't require critical thinking. Chapter 2 is where mini bosses start popping up, forcing you to think of your build and approach to battles. This is after the total shit show that is Voltaeus. I think that this is a blatant oversight from the developers, but it can be fixed. I think that providing tooltips in Chapter 1 about advanced game mechanics can remedy the challenges to come. It can remind new players of the many options that they have when piloting their mech and allow for some exploration and skill expression that can help them with the boss. I will say that the training missions provided at the start of the game do help, but they don't feel like enough. The enemies inside those simulations pose no real threat, and they don't convey the importance of said game mechanics that they're trying to teach. It's better than nothing, but they also provide weapons upon completion, so there is some merit to them. With that being said, checkpoints are generous, allowing players to retry missions with replenished ammo and healing items, as well as the ability to swap out AC parts. So even if you are getting whooped by the same segment, the game doesn't completely rip you off. I actually think that the checkpoint system forces learning in a way. You are pitted against your weakness consistently until you create a build or forge a strategy that works, and as annoying as it is, it does do wonders. Now when it comes to combat, after you actually learn stuff, it's fun and exciting. There's a lot to manage. An energy bar, weapon rotations, reloading, stagger, you get the point. However, there are a lot of layers to fighting mechs and bosses, which is great. While avoiding attacks, you need to manage spacing for your weapons to be effective, and you can utilize all the space around you. You're not stuck using one weapon, you have 4 big mech guns that you can fire into the poor soul pitted against you. You can't just mag dump these though, you're always watching their ammo count, waiting for the right time to reload them when your enemy stagger bar is about to be full. This micromanagement isn't overwhelming once you understand the mechanics at play. It's challenging, but rewarding. This power fantasy feels like a dream come true to someone who bought the game on impulse. The depth of combat would take ages for me to explain, but the fast-paced nature of AC6 is taken to the next level. Split-second decisions come into play all the time and it's fun, but I realize it's not for everyone. Not everyone likes micromanagement, nor do they like extensive mechanics that should be utilized whenever possible. For many new players, it's overwhelming or just outright drives them away. If you're not a fan of that, be cautious about buying the game. My biggest grievance with the combat system are the camera angles. In close quarters, the camera can spaz out and just show the ass crack of your mech, which makes spotting enemies impossible. This has led to my death multiple times throughout my first playthrough. There are ways to counter this, like using vertical space and avoiding contact with bosses, but it should be addressed ASAP. While getting your ass beat by a single boss sucks, customization in this game doesn't. You could easily find an overpowered build online and just roll with that, but you'd be sucking the fun out of the game. Experimenting with everything that is given to you, finding a mech that works for your playstyle, and finally beating that one boss creates a feeling of satisfaction that can only be created in this game. The heart of AC6 lies in its highly customizable and frantic mecha battles. The customization options are vast with different factors to consider such as weight, defensive value, health, and energy capacity. Balancing these factors becomes a puzzle in itself, and players need to be able to optimize their mech for different combat scenarios. There are lightweight scouts and heavy-hitting destroyers, and the game offers a wide range of playstyles to suit every preference. It also allows for adaptability and the chance to change playstyles on the fly. You are never locked to one set way to play. Now for me, I love the customization in this game because of how well it meshes with my combat. In my mind, the combat feels like a satisfying clash between the combo-oriented Devil May Cry 5 and the build-centric Warframe. But the thing is, there is a buttload of stats on the screen. This might be too much for a new player who then had to look up everything to grasp the nature of it. This part of customizing in AC is annoying and could be better done. Again, this could just be remedied by a simple tutorial or walkthrough. Every weapon is unique, but it can feel like certain guns are almost required near the endgame. As the game progresses, it can be hard to switch to other guns due to comfort or just ease of use. Certain weapons just feel head and shoulders above the rest. Pulse weapons, in my experience, are only used to take down pulse shields, and their accuracy leaves a lot to be desired. They run out of ammo extremely fast, and not only that, taking down shields is not that bad with missiles. The only time I used a pulse gun was for Balteus because I needed to apply constant pressure to keep his staggered bar up. Weapon types in this game are diverse enough to keep things fresh, and there is something for everyone. So even though I just hated on a specific archetype, I am sure there will be something here that will scratch an itch of yours. Armored Core 6 has stunning graphics and then not so stunning graphics. Let me explain. From Software has truly outdone themselves in certain areas of the game. The mechs are incredibly detailed with intricate designs and animations that bring them to life on the screen. The environments are a toss-up. Don't get me wrong, they all look good. While some areas are truly beautiful, they only come later, but early chapters look like a concrete jungle completely devoid of color. They're drab with dark grays and steel blues. When you take a closer look, cars look like toys and some buildings have textures with no depth to them. Given that you'll be in constant motion and bedazzled by explosions and weapons of mass destruction, you'll rarely notice this. However, these issues reduce immersion and is something you should keep in mind if impeccable graphical fidelity is your thing. Now keep in mind my system has a 2080 Ti graphics card, so your experience may be different. To keep the game looking as sharp as possible, I also disabled depth of field and motion blur. There were two sections of the game that had some noticeable stuttering, and that was the Strider mission and the Balteus fight. For some reason, it dropped down to 40 FPS in these areas. No other parts of the game had stuttering issues and ran at 120 FPS. While Armored Core 6 excels in its visual presentation, the storytelling may fall short for some. The game's 5-chapter campaign relies heavily on radio conversations, PowerPoint-style mission briefings, and combat chatter. This approach makes it difficult to fully immerse oneself in the narrative, especially during intense battles. The protagonist, a blank slate mercenary, lacks depth and fails to create a strong connection with the story. The branching storyline, where players make decisions on which faction to align with, does little to enhance the overall engagement. It has one redeeming quality though, since there are multiple endings. After completion, you can play New Game Plus to earn more AC parts and unlock other endings. It adds an entirely new layer to the game, and I think it makes up a little bit. However, to avoid spoilers, I won't go into further detail. If you are a fan of Metal Gear Solid 5 storytelling like I am, you might actually like the story here. I just note that the approach taken in AC6 is not universally liked or the most player engaging. In broader terms, I believe it's a missed opportunity to explore the intriguing setting and premise of the game. One of the highlights of AC6 is its exhilarating boss battles. Whether it's facing off against stealth ACs, descending into underground facilities, or infiltrating caves to destroy generators, each boss encounter offers a unique and challenging experience. The game's design and variety of missions ensure that players never do the same thing twice. The sense of accomplishment that comes from overcoming these formidable enemies is immense. Boss battles go hand in hand with the high skill floor of the game. You can't really expect to beat a boss on the first try, but that's okay. I personally love the bosses because their movesets are honest once you get used to them. Learning their moves and predicting what they do next is part of the fun, and I love it. There's something about completely dominating a boss once you get the hang of it that I just can't shake. Once you beat a boss through and through, you'll want to do it again with a different loadout for fun. One aspect of Armored Core 6 that didn't leave a lasting impression to me was its music. While the game's soundtrack serves its purpose in setting the tone for battles and missions, it lacks memorable tracks that truly stand out. The music fades into the background, rarely leaving a lasting impact. Considering the rich lore and intense action of the game, a more impactful and memorable score could have enhanced the overall experience. AC6 features online multiplayer combat, allowing players to engage in 1v1 and 3v3 fights. While I wasn't able to extensively test the multiplayer mode due to time constraints, the few matches I played were smooth and enjoyable. The arena mode offers steadily increasing difficulty, pitting players against named ACs with unique loadouts. Completing arena fights rewards players with currency, which they can use in the shop. The option to compete against actual human opponents adds an extra layer of excitement to the game. This feature alone brings a ton of replayability to the game. I love arenas. You can fight against friends for practice, which directly translates to solo player skill. It's super fun to bring a build into a 1v1 and use it against someone and see how it fares. Now let me give you a quick rundown of the pros and cons. There's stunning graphics that bring mechs in some environments to life. Highly customizable mechs with decals and player sharing that offer a wide range of playstyles. Satisfying combat puzzles in each mission, intense and challenging boss battles, and smooth and enjoyable multiplayer experiences. As for the cons, there's lackluster storytelling and character development, at least for most people. Controls can be hard to get used to as a newcomer, especially with boosting and the awkward camera angles, and the forgettable music that fails to leave a lasting impression. In conclusion, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon marks a welcome addition to the mecha action genre. While the game has its flaws, it excels in the areas that matter most. The stunning graphics, intense gameplay, and exciting boss battles make it a worthy addition to the Armored Core series. Fans of mecha action games and newcomers alike will find plenty to enjoy in this latest installment. In my opinion, I'm giving this game an 8 out of 10, with the score likely to go up as the developers fix some issues. I would highly recommend anyone that likes mecha games to try it out since the combat is so addicting. Thank you for watching, and happy hunting.